Hello. You can hear me okay? Hi, everyone. Thanks, Antonio. It's great to be back after a couple of years. It's a great festival. Thank you all for coming. I'm Rosie from Chuckefish. Bear with me. So I have had quite a few roles at Chuckefish in the 8 years that I've been there. Currently the producer on our in-house development, which is Witchbrook. So I'm a producer and an artist on that game in the development team. But previously to that, I was our brand designer across the whole company. So all of our published games, our in-house games, doing all the visual marketing and branding for those games. Previously, before that, I worked at Disney in London, which was the interactive department within Disney. I worked on apps, games, IP such as Star Wars and Disney Junior, making all sorts of things, websites, mostly art related, but that's also where I started doing a bit of production. And it's where I became really interested in branding. And it was a great place to learn about branding. So I just tried to absorb as much as I could from everyone around me. And I always wanted to move into indie. So when I moved over to Chuckefish, I was able to bring a lot of that information over. And over the past few years, I kind of created our branding pipeline and rebranded the company in 2017, which I'll go into a little bit. That's not right. Could you update the link? One moment. I think it's an older version that I gave you a few days ago. Yes. It should be there. I took the train here all the way from London and I worked on my slides on that 5-hour train across France, so a few of them needed updating. Perfect, okay, thank you. So today I want to cover some of the branding fundamentals, but also explain our branding process at Chuckefish with some examples from past events, past games, and some upcoming games as well. This will be, I hope, of use to anybody who is an indie developer looking to self-publish, anyone who's going to do their own branding, but also anybody who is looking for publishing, and also other indie publishers, or if you want to become an indie publisher, as a sort of point of reference for what we do. Chuckefish has been operating for just over 10 years, 11 years, and we've been fully independent since we founded, largely due to the success of our debut game, Starbound. We've got one studio in London and 18 full-time members of staff. A couple of those are remote in other countries, but we're mostly based in London. We have quite a close-knit team. We're all in the same room. We like it that way. We're a developer, but we're also a publisher, so we make games in-house, about 10 people in our team, in the development team, and then the rest of the team focus on our publishing. So there you can see our portfolio of developed games and also published games, and Hopefully there's a few here that you might recognize. And these are our 2 upcoming games that we're currently publishing. And Wild Frost is coming out in 2023, and I want to talk a little bit more about that today. So in 2017, after we launched Starbound, we began working on our next game, which was Wargroove. And the game was looking really beautiful, very nice art, very tight game. And I felt like our current company branding at the time didn't quite meet the same level as the game. So this is our logo and our website from that time, if anyone remembers it. The website definitely was not equipped to showcase our games that were coming out. It was basically a blog, but we wanted something that would suit us as a publisher and suit us as a developer as well. So I left the development team and I built this new website and focused on the needs that it needed to meet. So effectively, it's trying to reach customers with the games that we have, but also connecting with other indies. As a publisher, we now have this section on our website where you can apply for publishing and we then review your games. It's also a place where our player base comes to connect with one another. So we have a forum which has been around for a very long time, and we have Discord, we have all sorts of things. So it's multifunctional, does a lot of different things. I also refreshed the fish logo. It's slightly different from how it used to be, and created our Instagram and kind of our entire online presence, really. I do think it's very important as an indie developer and publisher to maintain an attractive online presence outside of your games, because you're often judged on that basis by potential partners and potential players. And I know that I definitely do judge all sorts of companies based on their websites and the quality of their websites. So people make pretty quick decisions on that. So our publishing timeline at Chuckefish can be broken down into 4 phases. I'm going to elaborate on the branding activity that happens in each of these phases. We usually onboard games whilst they're in development, but we have taken on games just before launch as well. So these are those same phases again, but underneath I've now got the large array of publishing services that we offer during those phases. There's no one-size-fits-all package at Chuckefish. We take a bespoke approach to every game that we launch. So we kind of review which services they're in need of. Sometimes it's hiring, sometimes they don't need to hire anyone, sometimes it's more like localization and QA only, and this is just the big list of stuff that we can do. It's quite a lot, especially considering we only have a team of 6 people. We usually have several games at once to publish. And we used to just be 2 people back when we were publishing Stardew Valley and Starbound at the same time, so it has grown over the years. The branding process in development is mainly just market research. Depending on how long development is, this can then vary. This might be the only thing we do for quite a few years. So market research to us might be a little different from what you're used to. So it's generally identifying similar games, usually inspired us to make whatever we're about to make, that we wanted to then build on. We wanted to build on that genre, whatever that game did that inspired us that it didn't quite do. We see how those market themselves, who plays those games, how do they reach those players? What are they doing? And that kind of forms our target audience. Then we begin to assess what features our games has that will be pleasantly familiar to people, what are they going to notice, and how are we going to let them know about those features through our branding? And then crucially, what features make our games stand out from these other games? What's our game bringing to this genre? My first case study about this is for Wild Frost, so the game I mentioned earlier. Wild Frost is a roguelike deck builder. So it's similar to games like Slay the Spire, Hearthstone. So the gameplay is pretty familiar to people, but the art is totally new to this type of game. That's really its unique feature. And it's very, very beautiful. We're very impressed with the artist that's been working on this game. It's only a two-man team, and the artist is actually only 20 years old. So he's a very impressive guy. We understood it was going to be very crucial to make a big display of the art and how beautiful it is in the branding, because we wanted people to really see that. But we also knew the branding needs to inform players who love this type of game that this is a game with a lot of depth and a lot of complexity, because it's not just cute, you know. So for the key art, we commissioned an artist to make this image, which is very much like the game. It's fun, it's colourful, it's full of all the characters, it's action-packed, and it represents that side of the game very well. We commissioned it rather than having the artists do it themselves, because, like I said, two-man team, they've got deadlines to hit, and they're very busy. So the developers were actually very heavily involved. They picked the artist. Sometimes we have an artist who works on the game do the key art. Sometimes it's external. It depends on the circumstances. So to complement the key art, our marketing artist, Renee, made these logos as a sort of first attempt at making a logo for the game. It was meant to complement the kind of cute, rounded effect of the art of the game. They have a similar color scheme to the game, that sort of frosty, icy color. But we were kind of concerned that this approach, having them match so closely, wasn't going to capture the attention of the serious card game fans. How do we let them know that this game is like their beloved, deep, complex deck builders that they're used to? So we went back to our market research that we'd already started doing. These are capsules of other games from Steam. We looked at some other deck builders on the left and some indie games with similar color schemes in the middle, and some indie games with very beautiful art on the right. So you can see that the deck builders tend to have that really kind of dark capsules with mostly like earth tones and quite angular fonts, and usually like a hero color. The indie games on the right with the beautiful art, they really showcase their art even in their smallest capsules. They make it very colorful, and overwhelmingly they tend to have just a white logo, probably because there's already so much color going on. So we knew we wanted Wild Frost to be in that first group so that we could attract the similar kind of audience. And this is the logo that Renee went on to make with that in mind. Next to it, you can see how it lines up against those other capsules of those similar games. For the rest of the capsules and the website, etc., we will use that key art from the previous slide, because we do want to show that off very much. But in this instance in particular, on the smallest capsule on Steam, we need it to very clearly convey that it's like these other kind of games and this is what you're in store for, because this capsule appears very often on its own, so it's working very hard, it's communicating a lot. It's what you find in those lists of new and noteworthy, or when you search deck builders, this will come up. And people make very quick decisions on whether to click on something or pass on something based on that capsule. which is kind of one of my favorite aspects of branding, actually. It's just the psychology of it is very interesting. It's got to communicate a lot wordlessly. It's almost a subliminal recognition of familiar visual elements between different games. And it's just amazing how quickly people make those kind of choices. So the pre-launch phase is probably our busiest phase for branding. This is where we actually make the logo, the key art, we make the store presence. Sometimes we do events and then we need a physical presence too, so we'll need to craft what the booth looks like, what any merchandise looks like. For this case study, I'd like to look at Wargroove and some of the things we did there. So if you're not familiar with Wargroove, it was developed in-house by Chuckefish, and it's kind of our love letter to Game Boy Advance style era strategy games. So the art is very reminiscent of that era, and the gameplay as well. So both of those things are quite trying to scratch that itch of like a Game Boy Advance style strategy game. The unique aspect of it that we really tried to push with all of our marketing is that it has all the modern features that you'd expect from a game today. So online multiplayer, map creation, and you can share your maps. You can even create your own campaigns with your own dialogue and your own like cutscenes, and it has all the tools to do that, which are the tools we use to make the game. We ship them with the game. So when making Wargroove, we set out to revive this genre that we loved so much, which was iconically defined by the Advance Wars series in the early 2000s. So we wanted to let fans of that series know that we were doing something new, which is similar, that they might like through our branding. We knew the games wouldn't ever be appearing side by side because Advance Wars is 20 years old now. So we took some pretty big visual cues from their branding and their key art, hoping that people would recognize that and know instantly that it's that kind of game. So for example, the wrench across the top of the logo in the Advance Wars box art is very iconic, and there's a few other pieces of key art where the main character's holding the big wrench. We have a medieval theme, so we did a similar thing with this sword, which we called the cherry blade. So you can see it in the logo, the main character is holding it. Overall, both games have a very Saturday morning cartoon feel in all of the branding. Yeah, which is interesting despite the topic of battling. It's quite contrasting to that. It's very cheerful. We also chose to announce Wargroove with Nintendo, so in a Nintendo Direct, which gave it a lot of legitimacy as a spiritual successor to this genre because Advance Wars was synonymous with their consoles. So really, it did a lot for us to announce it with Nintendo. Here we have just a little snippet of an event and what our physical stuff has been like. This is a booth showcasing some of the key art for the DLC for Wargroove. And then a plush of the popular character Caesar next to the vinyl soundtrack. We often try to line up our merchandise to launch with the game, but sometimes it's better to wait and see which characters are popular with people, and then base your merchandise off that. This is Adam, one of our developers, posing with the cherry blade, which we had made for the event so that people could get photographs and win prizes. We did a hide and seek with it. So at launch, we used the key art and the logo and the things that we've put together across our social media, across our advertising when appropriate. We don't always do advertising for games, and other digital marketing opportunities that come up. Our trailers are mainly made in-house by our amazing technical designer, Stephen. He's also our audio designer. He's been with us since Starbound times. I'd like to talk a little bit about trailers next. So for Wargroove, we decided that alongside our gameplay trailer, we thought it would be beneficial to promote the game with this cinematic trailer. So really going all in on that Saturday morning cartoon feel. So we commissioned quite a well-known animation house in London called The Line to create this 1-minute segment. They've done a lot of work recently since Wargroove with Riot Games and some shorts for League of Legends. They did a music video for Gorillaz. They've quite a good standing amongst animators in London at least, if not the world. And the decision to work with them really kind of came out of wanting to overlap with their audience because they have people paying attention to them who might not have heard of Wargroove, so it really gives you that extra visibility when you partner with people. It's also really good to partner with up-and-coming musicians, artists, who can give you that kind of crossover of audiences. And a lot of up-and-coming musicians will be really keen to do that. So this 1-minute animation was equal to 7% of our entire Wargroove budget, which was a big investment, and we've never done anything like that before. We hadn't even had any high-resolution key art done before this game, so it was an interesting choice at the time, but we felt that it would be a really good choice. And fortunately, it was an invaluable part of our marketing. And we really think that it helped raise the perceived value of the game, having something like this. So in thanks to that, we actually broke even in the first weekend with Wargroove. So it was a very good investment in the end. Okay, this is one with a video. So we're not quite yet. Yeah, over the years at Chuckefish, we've developed a signature style for our gameplay trailers. And this is because we generally have this 2D pixel art graphics, which is quite different if you were from making a 3D AAA game, for example. It needs to be treated quite differently. So you can see that signature style developing in this trailer from Starbound's launch in 2016. This is just a very quick clip out of that trailer. So you can already see that it has quite slow-paced shots, which mirror actually the speed of the gameplay. And it's a fully zoomed out view, which is what you would get when playing the game on PC. It has lots of panning and sweeping and time-lapse, showing the gameplay and the progression and the building. Can you click on the slide and then I can, yeah, perfect, thank you. So you can see that signature style again in this trailer for Stardew Valley, which we made just after, pretty much. It was pretty close. Can you play the video? That's okay? Yeah, so you'll see it's a similar sort of thing. It's very slow, lots of panning and zooming. And it also has these completely black slides in between. It's punctuated by text describing the features of the game. And Starbound and Stardew Valley became quite genre-defining games of that year. And this signature style of trailer has actually been imitated by loads of farming games since as a way to communicate that kind of familiar pace of a game and all those similar features. Ah, I think yeah, thank you. So your trailer is one of your most valuable marketing tools. So don't post your amazing trailer too soon in development. Save it for nearer launch, where you can include a wish list or buy now at the end of it, because otherwise people will see your trailer and all the amazing shots in it and think, this looks really great, and then they'll just forget by the time your game comes out. And if you use the same moments in a trailer at launch, it just won't feel as new and exciting. It's very hard to drum up that excitement again once you've shown all of your best bits. But do make multiple trailers. That'll show off different parts of your game, bring in different types of people, make a gameplay trailer, a story trailer, a cinematic trailer. Just kind of edit different parts of the game into different trailers, and it brings in lots of different people. And you can also see which ones are performing. Don't necessarily attend events. If you don't have a big budget and it comes down to choosing, I would recommend not going to big events. They're very expensive. You have to pay for the booth artwork, there's equipment hire, you've got travel, accommodation. If you have a small budget, you'd be better off spending that money on a really good trailer and just releasing it at the right time. Because if you think about an event like, the biggest event in the UK is called EGX, and it has maybe 75,000 people, and a trailer can reach much, much more than that if you time it correctly. So in the post-launch phase, branding usually consists of supporting with store refreshes, any new platform launches, seasonal marketing campaigns. But if there is a big DLC for the game, you'll probably have to do new key art, new logos. It can get quite busy all over again. Which was actually the case with Wargroove. So we decided to make a DLC the next year, which had a new logo, new key art, and we made it all in-house. So with the logo development here, we considered moving the position of the sword, but in the end we decided to just keep it where it was and add a subtitle because it built on the strength of what we'd already put out there, so it was much more recognizable. And here's the final logo with the new key art featuring the new characters. Little secret is that it uses a still from the animated cinematic as the background, which really saved us a lot of time from having to make another one. And it was so beautiful, you know, it's only up there for a second. So when we launched Stardew Valley on mobile, I created an all-new store branding with new screenshots, there's a new trailer, and this was specifically to appeal to mobile users. A mobile audience is quite different from a PC audience. PC players will typically want to see the game as it appears on their screen when they're playing. So a Steam storefront, you want your screenshots completely uninterrupted with any text. They're also willing to scroll down and read the features underneath. But on mobile, the trend is to include features within the screenshots so people can read it at the same time as getting an idea of what the game is all about. So we added these banners with our features along the bottom on the screenshots and the trailer. If I was to use this branding on PC, I guarantee players would make assumptions that are undesirable about the game in our case. So, for example, that it's not a very deep game, that it's not worth very much money, or that it has microtransactions, it's free to play. All of these kind of subliminal mobile branding techniques that wouldn't do your game justice if you used them on PC. So it's well worth doing different branding for different platforms to reach different people. So in summary, the objective with branding at Chuckefish, at least, is to communicate to the audience that this new game is similar to games that they like. And you do this by utilizing a visual language that already exists. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And if you ignore what other games are doing and their branding, you do risk miscommunicating your game. So if you just used whatever colors you liked and whatever shapes you liked, it could end up looking like a genre that your game isn't, and people may click on it for the wrong reasons and be disappointed, or they might not find your game at all if they're not looking for that. Every genre has associated colors, fonts, imagery, so it's really worth tapping into all of that visual language and using it to your advantage. Don't put down other games by saying yours is doing something better. If you do that, you're insulting your audience who have an attachment to that game, and they don't know yet why they should like your game. But any shared features your audience loves about that game will get them excited, so definitely mention those. And again, release the best bits in your trailer close to launch so that you can convert those views and that excitement into actual sales. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Rosie. We've got time for one question. There's a hand over there.
Hello. Hi. How much has the publishing and branding experience changed as community building has changed over time? What adaptations do you feel you've needed to make to how things are evolving over the last 3 years?
Since what has changed, sorry?
Since community building, really, access to all these platforms, the way community kind of involves itself in...
Oh, it has changed a lot, yes. Because initially, with Starbound, it was our early access community was a huge part of the development. We spoke to them every day, and over time, we've kind of changed to be a bit more reserved until we know exactly what we want to say. And then kind of like with the trailers, like timing things right so that we can really make the most out of the visibility. So for example, having a store page live if you're going to be featured somewhere, or if you're going to announce your game, you need to have somewhere people can go then once they've seen the announcement and they think this looks really good, they can actually go and wishlist the game, or they can go and do those things. So in terms of like lining things up, that has changed a lot. But community-wise, people move around. We try to keep up with wherever they are. I think you can only ever go where people already are. You can't move them. So we've had to adapt to things like Discord rather than our own forums. We've moved, consolidated Discords into one place, moved them around, had games in different places. Reddit, we support as well, the Steam forums. You kind of have to cross-post everything to your most popular places where the people are. You can't really channel them anywhere. So it has changed. It's just a lot of work to keep up with all the different places. But they do also die down and dissolve of their natural accord anyway. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Rosie.